I was still wiping the dirt from my husband's fresh grave off my hands when my daughter slammed on the brakes in the middle of a foggy back road outside Macon, Georgia, and snarled through gritted teeth. "This is as far as you go. Mom, get out. The farm and everything else is ours now." My heart pounded like a trapped bird in my chest. The rain starting to pelt the windshield as she revved the engine, her eyes cold as steel, leaving me there in the mud with nothing but my black dress clinging to my skin and the echo of her tires screeching away. I stood frozen, the world blurring through my tears, wondering how the child I'd raised could turn into this monster overnight. Let me catch my breath here for a second. Hey everyone. It's Evelyn Harper, spilling the tea on one of the wildest betrayals you'll ever hear. If you're new here, welcome to my corner of drama, where justice always finds its way back around. Hit that like button if you're already hooked, and subscribe for more stories that hit right in the feels. Promise it'll be worth it. Now, let's dive into how it all went down. It started slow, the way these things do. My husband, Leonard, and I had built our life on that old peach orchard farm just outside Macon. We'd turned it into something special over the years, a place where folks came for fresh pies, homemade jams, and that sense of southern hospitality that makes you feel like family. Leonard was the heart of it, with his big laugh and calloused hands that could fix anything from a tractor to a broken fence. But cancer doesn't care about hearts. It crept in quiet, stealing his strength bit by bit over those last 2 years. Our kids, Clarissa and Donovan, they weren't around much. Clarissa had moved to Atlanta, chasing some fancy job in real estate, always talking about networking and opportunities. Like our little farm was just a stepping stone she'd outgrown. Donovan was out in Nashville, trying to make it as a musician, but mostly just burning through cash on gear and gigs that went nowhere. They'd call when they needed money. Sure, Clarissa for her down payment on that condo, Donovan for his latest breakthrough album. Leonard always gave it, dipping into our savings with a wink and a, "That's what family's for." Me, I bit my tongue, smiling through the worry lines etching deeper into my face. But as Leonard got sicker, the visits dried up. Clarissa would text excuses about traffic or meetings, her voice messages clipped and impatient. "Mom, I can't make it this weekend client dinner. Tell Dad I love him." Donovan was worse. He'd promised to come, then ghost us, only resurfacing with another sob story about needing just a little more to tide him over. I nursed Leonard alone, holding his hand through the chemo fog, whispering stories of our early days under the peach trees to keep his spirits up. The farm suffered, 2 crops wilted under my solo care. Bills piled up like autumn leaves, but I held it together for him. The betrayal simmered under the surface, though. I caught whispers from neighbors about Clarissa sniffing around town, talking to developers about prime land potential. Donovan showed up once, unannounced, poking through Leonard's office drawers like he was casing the joint, just looking for old photos. "Mom," he'd say with that fake grin, but his eyes darted too quick. Leonard saw it too, in his weaker moments. "Evie," he'd rasp, clutching my arm, "promise me you'll protect this place. It's our legacy." I promised, tears stinging, not knowing how deep the knife would twist. Funeral day came gray and heavy, the kind of Georgia humidity that clings like guilt. Folks from town packed the little church, sharing stories of Leonard's kindness, how he'd give free peaches to kids, or help a neighbor with their harvest. Clarissa and Donovan played the part, Clarissa dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue. Donovan slouched in his suit, like it itched. After the burial, as the crowd thinned, Clarissa pulled me aside by the car. "Mom, we need to talk about the will." Her tone was all business, no warmth. Donovan nodded behind her, shifting on his feet. That's when the first crack showed. They claimed Leonard had updated his will months back, leaving the farm split between them, with me getting just a small stipend to live on. "It's what Dad wanted," Clarissa said, her voice smooth as silk but sharp underneath. "He knew you'd want to retire easy." I felt the ground tilt. Leonard and I had written our wills together years ago, everything to me, then to the kids after. But here was this new document, notarized, and cutting me out like I was yesterday's news. I protested, my voice shaking. "This can't be right. Your father would never." But they brushed it off, Donovan muttering about not making a scene. That night, back at the farmhouse, they started packing boxes, not Leonard's things, but mine. "We'll help you find a nice assisted living place," Clarissa cooed, folding my clothes like she was doing me a favor. The unfairness burned in my gut. hot and bitter. I'd sacrificed everything for them, and now they were shoving me aside for the land's value. Developers had been circling our orchard for years, offering millions for subdivision lots. That's what this was about: greed. Pure and simple. The next morning, Clarissa insisted on driving me to town for errands. But she veered off the main road, onto that foggy back road lined with pines and ditches. The car jolted to a stop, and she turned, her face twisted in a mix of pity and triumph. "Mom, let's be real. You're too old to run the farm alone. Donovan and I are selling. It got a buyer lined up for top dollar. This is where you get off. There's a bus stop a mile back." She tossed my purse out the window into the mud. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." I stumbled out, rain soaking me, as she peeled away. Alone, betrayed by my own blood, I collapsed to my knees, sobbing into the dirt. How had it come to this? But even then, a spark flickered deep inside a secret Leonard and I had buried, one that would turn their betrayal into ashes. The walk back to town felt endless, each step sinking into the mud like my heart into despair. My dress clung heavy, the rain mixing with tears that wouldn't stop. Cars whooshed by, splashing me, but no one stopped. Why would they? I was just an old woman, discarded like trash. By the time I reached the edge of Macon, my feet blistered. My mind raced with memories of how the unfairness had built up over years. It wasn't always like this. Leonard and I met young, in the 70s, at a county fair where he won me a stuffed peach with his ring toss skills. We built the farm from scratch, a few trees to hundreds of acres, adding a bakery where I'd whip up pies that won blue ribbons. Clarissa came first, a bubbly toddler chasing butterflies through the orchards. Donovan followed, always banging on pots like drums, dreaming big. But as they grew, the entitlement crept in. Clarissa's teen years were all demands: designer clothes. "A car at 16, Mom. Everyone has one," she'd whine, eyes rolling. Leonard indulged her, saying it was harmless. Donovan was lazier, skipping chores for guitar practice, borrowing tools he never returned. I'd argue with Leonard in hushed tones at night. "They're spoiled, Len. We need to teach them responsibility." He'd sigh, pulling me close. "They're kids. Evie life will toughen Emma." Life didn't. When Clarissa left for college, she barely called, only when tuition was due. Donovan dropped out, chasing music dreams funded by us. The loans started smaller, few hundred here, 1,000 there. "Just till I get signed, Mom," Donovan promised, his voice earnest over the phone. Clarissa's were bigger. "This investment seminar will change everything. Can you spot me?" We did, dipping into retirement savings, because that's what parents do, right? Leonard's illness amplified it. Diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He hid the pain at first, not wanting to burden them. I'd beg him to tell them. "They need to know, Len." Family steps up, but he shook his head. "Let em live their lives." So I shouldered it, driving him to appointments, managing the farm, lying to the kids about just a bug. When they did visit, it was awkward. Clarissa complained about the smell of sickness. Donovan fidgeted, checking his watch. The money asks escalated. Clarissa needed seed money for her real estate flip, Donovan for studio time. Leonard wrote checks with trembling hands, his face pale. I confronted them once, after a particularly bad chemo day. "Your father's fighting for his life, can't you see that? Help out, for God's sake." Clarissa snapped back, her voice laced with annoyance. "We're busy, Mom, building our futures. Dad understands." Donovan mumbled agreement, avoiding my eyes. After Leonard passed, the mask dropped. At the reading of the will, their Lawaya slick, Atlanta-type Clarissa knew presented it like gospel. Mr. Harper specified the assets go to the children, with Mrs. Harper receiving a modest allowance. I demanded to see the original. "This isn't what we agreed." But they had witnesses, friends of theirs, swearing Leonard signed it in secret. The unfairness choked me. The farm wasn't just land. It was our sweat, our love. They'd forge it for profit. That night, as they rifled through drawers, I overheard them in the kitchen. "This place is worth at least $3 million to the right buyer," Clarissa whispered excitedly. "Subdivisions, malls, jackpot." Donovan laughed nervously. "As long as Mom doesn't fight it." Clarissa's reply was ice cold. "She won't. She's broken." Hearing that, my blood boiled. But I played meek, biding time. The drive the next day was the culmination. Clarissa's hands gripped the wheel tight, her knuckles white. "You always favored the farm over us, Mom. Time to let go." Her words stung like wasps, each one a reminder of the years I'd poured into them, abandoned on that road. I realized the betrayal wasn't just about money, it was erasing me, our history, for their gain. But secrets have a way of surfacing. Leonard and I had one big one, tucked away in a safe deposit box only I knew about. As I hitched a ride back to town with a kind trucker, my mind shifted from grief to resolve. They thought they'd won, but the game was just beginning. Reaching Macon, I stumbled into the local diner, dripping wet, folks staring. Old Mrs. Jenkins, the owner, rushed over with a towel and hot coffee. "Evelyn, honey, what happened?" Her concern cracked me open. I spilled it all. The abandonment, the forged will, the greed. Word spread fast in a small town. By evening, friends rallied, but inside, I was shattering, the breaking point hitting like a storm. That night, alone in a motel room paid for by Mrs. Jenkins, I curled up, sobbing. Memories flooded. Clarissa's first steps in the orchard, Donovan's childhood concerts on the porch. How had they turned so cold? The unfair treatment, replayed years of giving, getting nothing but demands. Leonard's deathbed words echoed, "Protected, Evie." I had too, but how? I was 68, exhausted, broke. Morning brought clarity. I called my old friend, attorney Leila Thorne, from high school. "Meet me at the bank," she said, voice steady. There, in the safe deposit box, was the real will and more. Years ago, Leonard and I had invested in a tech patent for an irrigation system we'd invented for the orchard. It was in my name only, worth a fortune now. With climate changes boosting demand, we'd kept it secret, even from the kids, as a rainy day fund. Twist. The patent rights included licensing deals I'd quietly negotiated, bringing in royalties they'd never touched. But the breaking point deepened when Leila revealed bank records. Clarissa and Donovan had withdrawn funds from joint accounts days before. Leonard died tens of thousands, forged signatures, elder financial abuse, Leila said, her eyes flashing anger. "We can fight this." My rage built slow, then exploded. How dare they? I paced the room, fists clenched, tears of fury. They left me for dead, Leila, my own children. The emotional toll hit hard. I dreamed of Leonard, his ghost whispering encouragement. Waking, I felt hollow. But a fire kindled. No more victim. I started gathering evidence, texts, emails showing their greed. Neighbors shared stories. Clarissa badmouthing me in town, Donovan pawning farm tools. The breaking point wasn't just abandonment. It was realizing they'd never loved us, only what we could give. With Leila we planned. First, freeze assets, then, exposed the forgery. But the real shock came from a pie Leila hired. Clarissa was dating the developer, buying the farm, a conflict of interest. Donovan had gambling debts, using our money to pay off. The pieces fit. Their desperation fueled the betrayal. I confronted the pain head-on, visiting Leonard's grave. "I miss you, love, but I'll make this right." Kneeling in the grass, I vowed, revenge not vicious, but just. The breaking point became my turning point, from suffering to strategy. The morning after that endless night in the cheap motel on the outskirts of Macon, I sat at the small formica table with a lukewarm cup of coffee, staring at the wall like it held answers. My phone still in my purse when Clarissa tossed it out had one bar of signal and a string of missed calls from unknown numbers. I didn't answer. Instead, I dialed Leila Thorne, my high school friend who'd become one of the sharpest attorneys in Middle Georgia. "Evelyn, thank God," she said the second she picked up, her voice thick with worry. "Mrs. Jenkins called me last night. Where are you? Are you hurt?" I told her everything, the fake will, the abandonment on that foggy back, the way Clarissa's eyes had gone flat when she said, "This is where you get off." My voice cracked only once. When I mentioned Leonard's grave still fresh, Leila listened without interrupting, then said the words that started to pull me out of the pit. "Come to my office now. Bring whatever you have left of your dignity and that purse." By noon, I was sitting across from her in a cozy office smelling of old books and fresh coffee, the kind of place that felt like safety. Leila had already pulled strings cold in favors from the county clerk, a handwriting expert she knew from law school. She slid a folder toward me, her manicured nails tapping the edge. "First things first, that will they showed you. It's garbage. Leonard's signature, it's close. But the tremors from the last months of chemo make it impossible for him to have signed anything that's steady. The notary, a woman in Atlanta who doesn't exist on any official list. Forgery, plain and simple." My breath caught. "But how?" "They had witnesses, paid friends," Leila said flatly. "Or maybe threatened ones. But that's not the big one." Evie, she opened another folder, thicker, with bank statements clipped together. They started draining joint accounts weeks before Leonard passed. 15,000 here, 20 there. Emergency loans to themselves, signed with what looks like your power of attorney, but you never gave them that. I felt the room tilt. They were stealing while he was dying. Leila nodded. eyes hard. Elder financial abuse, felony territory, but hold on, there's more. She reached into her drawer and pulled out a small envelope I'd given her years ago, sealed with Leonard's old farm stamp. You remember when you two came to me about that patent, the irrigation system? Leonard and I had tinkered with it for years. Drip lines that saved water in drought-prone Georgia, smart sensors that adjusted flow based on soil moisture. We'd patented it quietly in my name only, back when the kids were teens and we worried about their impulsiveness. Rainy day fund, Leonard had called it, kissing my forehead. Just in case life gets mean. Leela smiled for the first time. That patent, it's licensed now to 3 major ag companies. Royalties have been piling up in a trust account you control. Over 800,000 so far, and climbing. They have no claim, it's solely yours. I stared at the numbers, my hands shaking. They don't know, not a clue. And here's the kicker. She leaned in, voice dropping. I had a pie friend run a quick check. Clarissa's been sleeping with the developer Mark Reynolds, the one pushing for the subdivision. Conflict of interest big enough to sink the whole deal. And Donovan, his music career is cover for gambling. Debts over 100 grand to some shady outfit in Nashville. They've been desperate, Evie. Desperate enough to forge, steal, abandon. The shock hit in waves. First the forgery, then the theft during Leonard's final days, then the patent that could rebuild everything, and finally their desperation laid bare like an open wound. I thought of Clarissa as a little girl picking peaches, laughing as juice ran down her chin. Donovan strumming his first guitar on the porch while fireflies danced. How had those babies turned into strangers who could leave their mother in the rain? Tears came then, hot and angry. They planned this, I whispered, while I held his hand through the pain. They were plotting to erase me. Lila reached across the desk, squeezing my hand. They underestimated you. Big mistake. That afternoon, we dug deeper. Leela pulled up deleted emails from our shared family account recovered by a tech guy she knew. Messages between Clarissa and Donovan. Mom's too soft. She fold. Once the farm sells, we split 3 mil. Easy. Make sure the old will stays. Buried. One from Clarissa to her developer boyfriend. Closed the deal. Fast mothers not long for the farm. My stomach twisted. The betrayal wasn't just greed. It was calculated cruelty. They hadn't just abandoned me, they'd rehearsed it. But the biggest shock came when I visited the safe deposit box myself that evening. Tucked behind old photos was a letter from Leonard, dated 6 months before he died. Handwriting shaky but clear. Evie, my love, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And things went wrong. The kids, I saw the signs. Protect the farm. Protect yourself. The patent's your shield. And one more thing. I knew about the early years. The boys, before we fixed us. I forgave it all because you gave me a family. They were mine in every way that mattered. Don't let guilt stop you now. Fight. I love you forever. He'd known about my mistakes in our rocky start. The brief affairs when we were young and fighting. I'd confessed. Years later, he'd held me. Said it didn't change a thing. But he'd never told the kids. And now, that secret was irrelevant. Because the farm, the patent, everything was mine to defend. I sat on the bank floor, letter clutched to my chest, sobbing quietly, not from grief alone, but from the weight lifting. They thought they had power. They had nothing. The truth wasn't just shocking, it was liberating. I walked out of that bank with fire in my veins. No more tears for them, only justice. Revenge isn't loud explosions and screaming matches. It's quiet, precise cuts that bleed them slow. That's how I did it. First move. Leela filed the emergency injunction the next morning. We froze every asset tied to the farm, the bank accounts, the pending sale to Reynolds Development, even Clarissa's real estate listings that mentioned family orchard potential. The court order hit like a thunderclap. Clarissa called within an hour, voice high and panicked. Mom, what the hell is this? We're trying to handle Dad's estate. I let it go to voicemail. Let her sweat. Second, the patent royalties. I transferred the incoming funds to a new account in my name only. The first check arrived, $47,000, enough to pay Leela's retainer and hire a private investigator full-time. I didn't spend it on revenge. I spent it on truth. The pie uncovered more text chains where Donovan joked about Mom's new address, the shelter. Clarissa emailing the developer. She's out of the picture, push the permits through. I leaked nothing yet. Patience. Third. Community power. Macon folks don't take kindly to their own being wronged. I met with the local newspaper editor over coffee at Mrs. Jenkins' diner. Showed him copies redacted for legal reasons of the forged will, bank withdrawals, abandonment photos I'd snapped of my mud-soaked dress. The story ran front page. Local widow alleges forgery, financial abuse in family farm dispute. No names at first, just enough to stir the pot. Donovan's creditors got wind fast. Calls started coming to him, threatening ones. His music studio in Nashville repoed equipment within weeks. Clarissa's fancy Atlanta condo. Mortgage payments missed when her commissions dried up from the boycott whispers. Karma moved in stages. I rebuilt quietly. Hired 2 young couples from town, good with plants, eager for work. We revived the peach trees, planted new varieties, started agritourism weekends, pick-your-own pie-making classes in Leonard's honor. The farm began turning profit again. My profit? Clarissa tried showing up once, mascara streaked, begging at the gate. Mom, please, we're family. Donovan's in trouble, real trouble. Her voice cracked. The first real emotion I'd heard in years. I stood on the porch, arms crossed. Family doesn't abandon family on a dirt road. Clarissa, family doesn't forge wills while a man dies, she sobbed. We were scared. The debts, scared enough to leave me for dead. My voice stayed calm, but inside, satisfaction bloomed. Go home, or what's left of it. The developer pulled out environmental impact studies, quietly funded by me through Leela, showed the subdivision would destroy protected wetlands near our well. Permits denied. Mark Reynolds faced ethics complaints from his own board. Donovan hit bottom first. Arrested for check fraud on an old loan. Clarissa lost her real estate license, temporarily citing questionable dealings. They sold what they could, cars, gadgets to pay debts. I watched from afar, sipping sweet tea on the porch Leonard built. No gloating calls, just quiet observation as their world unraveled thread by thread. The method was simple: expose truths, protect assets, let consequences flow. Karma didn't need my help, it just needed the door opened. It happened under the peach trees in full bloom, petals drifting like confetti on a sad wind. They came together, Clarissa in a wrinkled blazer, Donovan unshaven, eyes hollow. No fancy car this time. They drove an old rental. I waited on the porch swing, Leela beside me with papers. They stopped at the steps, hesitant. Mom, Clarissa started, voice small. We need to talk. I gestured to the chairs. Sit. They did, awkward, like strangers in their childhood home. Donovan spoke first, hands twisting. We're sorry, really. The money, the pressure. We lost our heads. Clarissa nodded, tears spilling. We thought you couldn't handle the farm alone. We were trying to help. I echoed softly. By forging your father's will, by stealing while he suffered, by dumping me like trash. Silence stretched. Clarissa whispered, we were wrong. Please, drop the charges. We'll leave town, never bother you again. I looked at them, really looked. The entitled spark gone, replaced by fear. Part of me ached for the babies they'd been. Most of me remembered the mud on my dress. Leela slid the papers forward. Quitclaim deeds. Sign over any claimed interest in the farm, the business, all assets. In return, we dropped the civil suit. Criminal. That's up to the Dabut to cooperate, and it might stay quiet. Donovan reached first, pen shaking. Just, can we see Dad's grave one last time? No, I said firmly. You lost that right when you disrespected his memory. Clarissa signed last, sobbing openly. We love you, Mom. We messed up so bad. I stood. Love doesn't abandon. Love doesn't steal. Goodbye. They left, heads down, car kicking dust. I watched until they vanished around the bend. That night, I walked the orchard alone, petals catching in my hair. Leonard's voice in my head. You did good, Evie. Peace settled, deep and real. No more chains.